Hey, what is going on, guys? This is the SS Ultimate Goku back with another video. And today I'm going to be, this video, is based on, a recent video I watched from the Solomonster, who, did a topic, asking a question from a fan about, this, and he gave his opinion on it. But I thought it was a very interesting topic, being a long time, obviously, wrestling fan. And I thought it was worth making a video about, because I do think it would be an interesting discussion. And it was about what if Undertaker had picked John Cena instead of World Heavyweight Champion Batista to face at WrestleMania 23. Undertaker, as we all know, in 2007 had won the Royal Rumble match, and because of that, he got to pick the champion that he wanted to face at WrestleMania, either being World Heavyweight Champion Batista or WWE Champion John Cena. We're going to go into a lot of contents here. Before we get into this hypothetical scenario, I would like to say that I don't think on any circumstances that this match would have happened, but I do think it would be kind of cool to talk about how it would be handled if this match were to happen. If, Undertaker hypothetically did pick John Cena for WrestleMania 23 and went for the WWE Championship. But I want to go into why I don't think this match was ever going to happen. And this is where I kind of disagree with Solomonster's opinion on this, because I don't know where he got some of his ideas for how John Cena was going to be booked at that time. But to my understanding, the way the storyline was going to go for John Cena, had Triple H not gotten injured, for anybody who doesn't know, Triple H, or don't remember, Triple H injured his knee at the New Year's Revolution pay-per-view, and because of that, Triple H was unable to wrestle at WrestleMania 23, which, yes, Triple H was supposed to face John Cena for the WWE Championship again at WrestleMania, but because of the injury, he was out until SummerSlam that year, and because of that, Shawn Michaels took his place. Now, Solomonster claimed that Triple H was going to lose to John Cena had Triple H wrestled Cena again. That is not true. Triple H was 100% beating John Cena that year. That was going to happen. And I know this because I heard so many reports that what WWE was planning at that time was to do a trios WrestleMania between John Cena and Triple H. And what I mean by that is Triple H was supposed to lose to John Cena at 22, which he did. And then at 23, had he not gotten injured, it was supposed to be Triple H beating John Cena at 23, WrestleMania 23, and then at WrestleMania 24, Triple H was going to face John Cena again, and John Cena was going to beat him at WrestleMania 24. That is what I've heard over the years of what that was what was going to happen. They were going to do a Rock Stone Cold rivalry between John Cena and Triple H. Triple H obviously had a lot of pull at that time, so that was what was going to happen. Still does, but because of course he's the man in charge now. Well, at least for creative, head of creative. Well, until The Rock comes back again, as we all know, because we all know The Rock, can overrule Triple H when he's around. So, but point being is, Triple H was going to beat John Cena at 23. The reason why Shawn Michaels didn't beat John Cena at 23 was because it was a completely different feud now. The storyline they originally planned was now gone. So they had to change course. Obviously, WWE's perspective, there was no point in Shawn Michaels beating John Cena at 23 because obviously Shawn Michaels, didn't want to be champion. So there was really no point in Shawn Michaels going over, especially since John Cena was being positioned to be the face of the company at that point. So obviously they weren't going to have Shawn Michaels win, but if it had been Triple H, yes, was going to win. I've heard so many reports over the years, and people have talking about that was WWE's plan, was to do a trios WrestleMania between Triple H and John Cena, and considering the fact that WrestleMania 24 ended up being a three-way between Cena, Orton, and Triple H, it kind of supports that idea. Obviously, the three-way wouldn't have happened had it not been for, the injury, but obviously everything changed because of that. So now getting to the Undertaker's perspective of this, the reason why WWE was never going to do this match was because, again, they're positioning John Cena to be the face of the company. Still kind of even with Batista, but they were still more in favor of John Cena at this point because of his look and because, he had not been injured at this point, where Batista had suffered an injury by this point. So Cena was already being favored by management to be the face, despite the fact that kind of being on equal status at one point. But the reason why... See, there's a reason why Vince McMahon kept Undertaker on SmackDown and quickly moved John Cena to Raw once, the draft lottery happened in 2005. The reason why he did that was because he knew Undertaker was a character attraction. He was an established attraction. If Undertaker had left, or if Undertaker had retired before 2007, he would have still been a legend. He would have still been a Hall of Famer. Okay, he already had a Hall of Fame resume by 2006. Okay, so Undertaker didn't need any more rub, with titles and stuff like that. But obviously, him lasting as long as he did, obviously increased Undertaker's legacy even further than it already was. Okay, I remember JBL, on commentary would always say that Undertaker's in the best shape that he's ever been, which, a lot of people say that Undertaker's prime was in 2006, 2007. If they say that, they weren't, old enough to realize that Undertaker's prime was clearly in 1997. 96, 97. That was his prime, okay? This was just an extra bonus prime at this point for Undertaker, because Undertaker never left for Hollywood. He never left, really, period, except for, when he had injuries and stuff like that to recover from. He never had any major, leaving. He stayed with WWE. Once he came to WWE in 1990, he stayed with WWE, he's the bell cow. He never left for Hollywood like The Rock did or Batista did. He stayed around. He was the bell cow. He was a wrestler. He was not a, he didn't want to do anything else. He wanted to wrestle. Okay, that was his thing. Okay, kind of like how Randy Orton is right now. Randy Orton doesn't want to leave for Hollywood. He's a wrestler. He's fully committed to just staying a wrestler. That's what they are. Okay, so because of Undertaker's character established, which is why Undertaker was never the face of the company in WWE. He was attracted for the character more than anything else. Now, of course, Undertaker is a phenomenal wrestler, but we didn't really get to see Undertaker's peak as a wrestler really more displayed until the Ruthless Aggression era. We've seen great matches with him in the Attitude Era, He had great wrestling matches, but it was character organized. The storylines were character driven, more than they were wrestling driven. And this is why I think most people think Undertaker's prime was during the Ruthless Aggression era, because that's when we got to see Undertaker do five star caliber matches. More, and it's not like he didn't have 5-star caliber matches in the Attitude Era or the New Generation era, but he didn't have nearly as much as he did towards the later parts of his career. And that was because WWE let him, do that. They let him be more of a wrestler than a character. I mean, he was still doing the dead man stuff. He was still doing the rest in peace stuff and whatnot. But when he got in the ring, he was doing more athletic stuff, less gimmicky stuff. I mean, he still did the sit-up, but that was really kind of it. Other than the sit-up, the traditional sit-up thing, he was mostly just, and then, trying to intimidate the referee. He was mostly doing, athletically wrestling matches, during the Ruthless Aggression era. So, Undertaker was never positioned as the face of the company, but he was a guy who was a star that could beat the face of the company. That's how he was positioned. Okay? He was positioned as a guy who could beat the face of the company because of his establishment, because of his, the way he was set up as as the character, the dead man, and whatnot. This is why Vince McMahon kept Cena and Undertaker apart. Because if Cena and Undertaker were on the same brand, Undertaker could disrupt Cena's stardom. Especially since Undertaker was a babyface, too. He was, and people weren't going to boo The Undertaker, okay, at this point. He was too beloved. He was a legend, okay? John Cena was the main guy in the making. 2007, this is only 2 years into him being, built as the face of the company. So it was going to be very, very hard for them to do that and kind of not hurt John Cena's stardom if he'd faced The Undertaker. Okay? So, with that being said, in this hypothetical scenario, okay, which again, it's very far-fetched because Vince McMahon would not have wanted that. But let's say hypothetically, they do this match for WrestleMania 23. Okay? It's streak versus title. Undertaker was 14-0 going into WrestleMania 23. John Cena is being built as the, face of the company. Both of them are going to be baby faces because that's how they did it in the real timeline anyways. When Shawn Michaels versus Cena, they were both baby faces. When Undertaker versus Batista, they were both baby faces. So it's definitely a much harder challenge. I will say this: it would be really interesting because to this day I remember they did that poll. I don't know because I watched it live. Okay, I still have the live VHS tape of it too. By the way, I watched it live. I ordered it on pay-per-view. I had to convince my mom to order it on pay-per-view, which we did. I paid for it. I just gave my mom the money. So I ordered it on pay-per-view. I believe it was $49.99 if I'm remembering correctly. It was still fucking a lot of money for it. I remember they did that poll where right before the title match is where Undertaker versus Batista, who wins. 82% said The Undertaker. Then when they did the poll for Shawn Michaels versus John Cena, 59, I believe it was 59% said John Cena was going to win, and 41% of the fans said Shawn Michaels was going to win. Which, obviously that was a split, kind of, it was, only about like, 15% down or whatever. Not a very, you know, not very much of a big margin. But when it was Undertaker and Batista was polled, it was 82% in favor of the Undertaker, which is a landslide. Okay, for the audience to believe that Undertaker was gonna beat Batista. So if it was split between Shawn Michaels and John Cena, if they had done that poll with Undertaker and John Cena at that time, I gotta think it would have been split. Either split or Undertaker would have probably landslided because he had the streak. So, first and foremost, I do agree with Solomonster on the WWE Championship design. If Undertaker had won the WWE Championship, there's no way in hell he would have used that spinner belt. I don't think it would necessarily have been destroyed. I just think they would have replaced it with the Undisputed title. The Undisputed title was still, the spinner belt was still not officially made in 2007 as the official WWE Championship. I don't think they made that ruling official until, I think it was in like around 2008 when they made that official. Or either late 2007. I don't remember when it was made official that was going to be the official definitive championship, because they did bring back the Undisputed title during the Kurt Angle John Cena storyline, where the Homecoming Raw being on USA Network for the first time in a long time. That was when they brought the Undisputed title back, because they were going to give it to Eric Bischoff was going to award it to Kurt Angle, but Vince McMahon overruled it. So they had the Undisputed title there, waiting in the wings. But after that, it was never brought back again. But I do believe that had Undertaker versus John Cena had happened, one, I do believe the Undertaker would have kept the streak. And number two, I do believe the Undisputed title would have come back. Here's why I don't think John Cena would have beaten The Undertaker. Because Vince McMahon at that time was very protective of the streak. He was very protective of the streak. I remember it was 2 years before that when he had faced Randy Orton. When he had faced Randy Orton to go 12-0 at WrestleMania, he had actually offered to end the streak to Randy Orton, but Randy Orton refused. And because of that, Undertaker kept the streak then. After that match, Vince McMahon really wanted to keep the streak going because he realized the promotion that was going on. Because if you remember, at that time, after he did beat Randy Orton, they started pumping out those DVDs and stuff like that of the streaks and all that stuff. Vince McMahon was really starting to realize that this was a big deal, that the streak was a big deal now. And so that was when Vince McMahon started to make it bigger and bigger, because the streak wasn't really promoted that well until, I remember my brother talking about it during the Attitude Era after, he had beaten Kane at WrestleMania 14, that he was undefeated at WrestleMania, but it was never really brought up to anybody, like in the broadcast, or WWE television until I believe when he beat Triple H at WrestleMania 17 the first time. He beat Triple H at WrestleMania. That's when they really started, that's when WWE started acknowledging it. But I knew about the streak before that because my brother had told me about it, that he had been undefeated, because that was my brother's favorite wrestler. So I remember in the Attitude Era, I remember that he'd said that Undertaker was undefeated at WrestleMania at that time. But again, they hadn't really started promoting it by that point. It wasn't until really after Triple H they started to really start promoting the streak thing, the WrestleMania streak. So, um, so I think had they done it, I think Undertaker does win. And I don't think it would have hurt John Cena necessarily, because I do believe he would have lost Triple H at WrestleMania 23 had they done that match. He had already beaten Triple H at 22, so I don't think it was going to hurt him necessarily. And John Cena probably would have gotten the belt back anyways, because Undertaker got injured at, well, he wouldn't have gotten injured at Backlash, because maybe they don't do a last man standing match at Backlash like they did with Batista in the real timeline. Maybe they do something different, but let's say hypothetically Undertaker then gets injured like next month against Cena. Or maybe they decide they'll do like Vince McMahon. You know, there's another thing they could have done. Vince McMahon, being the heel he could have been like, you know what, Cena, I'm not going to give you another title shot or something like that. Something to the effect to keep him away from The Undertaker. Or something that way. That way it could keep John Cena busy doing something else for a while. You know, but also keeping him, you know, in line where, you know, he has to go up against the Authority or something like that, you know, and waiting in the wings to face the Undertaker again. That's a possibility. They could have gone in that route too, to keep John Cena up. But no, I don't see the streak ending. But again, that's why I don't think this would have ever happened. Because again, Vince McMahon did not want these two to fight each other. They did not want, they avoided it. They avoided it on purpose because it was a risk, because it could affect John Cena's status of being the main guy. You know, if he had lost to Undertaker. I mean, there's no shame losing to the Undertaker. He was a legend. But just in terms of trying to pump him out as like the new Hulk Hogan or whatever, that's probably what was probably at risk for them, or at least in their minds, that would have been what would have been at risk. But that's why I don't think the match would have ever happened. But again, I disagree with Solomonster on saying that John Cena ended the streak. There's no way I see the streak ending at that time. There's no way, and that's why this match would have never happened. But in a hypothetical scenario, I do believe Undertaker does win. He gets the win. They go back to the undisputed title, because I don't see Undertaker holding the spinner belt. I just think the spinner, well, I mean, to be fair, there were other guys that ended up holding it that I thought looked stupid with it. You know, Randy Orton holding it, it just looked so weird. Edge kind of made, you know, his own title out of it, but Edge even said he didn't like it either, because it was basically a rated R spinner belt. You know, and I kind of agree with him on that. I was like, why am I making a spinner rated R belt? Why can't I just make a rated R title like Austin did the Smoking Skull belt? You know, that's something like that. That's what he was thinking, and I kind of agree with that. I think that's what they should have done at the time. They were going to make a custom belt for Edge, but I think Undertaker. They bring back the undisputed. I mean, they still had the undisputed title, and they still hadn't fully decided yet. So I think the undisputed title would have just came back. And if Cena then won the title back, he would have just gone back to the spinner title at that time. That's how I think they would have gone about it, if that were the case. But yeah, that, again, it's highly debatable on who would win, because we'll never know. Because, again, it's a protective situation. They're trying to make John Cena the face. Undertaker's a living legend. His streak is very important to Vince McMahon at this point in time, because they're pumping out DVDs. They're promoting the crap out of it at this point. And I just don't see Vince McMahon wanting to relinquish that streak at that time. So I think he does reluctantly give Undertaker the win because he doesn't want the streak to end, because he can always go back to John Cena. Like, he can always have John Cena take on Undertaker again at a SummerSlam, and have him beat him at SummerSlam. You know, like in a rematch, like they have the rematch at SummerSlam, like because like Batista and them had the rematch at Cyber Sunday when Undertaker came back, and Batista retained. You know, they could have done the same thing with Undertaker and Cena, where Cena gets a rematch at SummerSlam that year, assuming Undertaker doesn't get injured. You know, they hold up them having another match by Cena focusing on Vince and authority or something like that to keep him, keep him busy and interesting for WrestleMania until you get to SummerSlam. And then you get to SummerSlam and you have them face off again, and this time Cena beats him at SummerSlam because, again, it's not WrestleMania, so you can get away with it there, and they have the rematch, and Cena wins back the WWE Championship. If you want to go right back to Cena, that's assuming they want to go back to Cena at that point, which they probably will. But again, now we're getting into even more hypotheticals on how they would approach it after Undertaker wins. But again, that's my take on it. Again, probably a lot of people could debate about this. This is just my opinion on it. I'd like to know what anyone else's opinion on it is. Comment, rate. If you like this video, my videos, please subscribe. Hit the notification bell for all of these contents. Thank you. And that's about it, guys. I'm the Ultimate Goku. I'm out of here. Peace. Make sure subscribe to the Ultimate Goku on Twitch, Instagram, and my YouTube channel, and Discord link in the description as well for a lot of discussions, including this one. And also, I do have a YouTube membership tier, so make sure to check that out as well. And now I'm out. Peace.